And we are live. Thank you everyone for joining us for another live Q&A with Kobo Writing Life. And I feel tremendously blessed to be having these three women that are editing experts here to talk to us today. So hi everyone, thanks for joining.
Hello.
Hi.
And we were able to get this going in multiple different locations, which is always impressive as we're able to do this at home. So I will kind of just give a little quick introduction to the people that we have here and then let them talk themselves. If you're here, let us know in the comments and we'll kind of be picking questions throughout the chat. So if we don't get to it, we'll hopefully kind of try and get them throughout, but we can also get them through email afterwards if we don't capture everything. We also have a number of prizes today. So lucky if you're tuning in live, we have a bunch of stuff that we're giving away. So keep, just keep focused and listening to what we're talking about. And then you'll see how things are going through. So yeah, we have Carol here who just said good morning from Phoenix. So thanks for coming, and from Littleton, Colorado. Excellent. It's lovely to see you guys. So let's get going because 4 people in just 60 minutes, and I think we're going to have a lot to cover. So first we have Kristina Stanley, who is combines her degree in computer mathematics with her success as a best-selling author and fiction editor. She is the creator and driving force behind Fictionary. So hi, Kristina.
Hi, Tara. Thank you for the lovely introduction.
Nice. And Kristina is in Ontario with me. So we're on our Canada timeline here. So next I'll introduce, so we have JoEllen Nordstrom, who is the founder of firstediting.com, which has helped over 50,000 authors. They boast of successfully published authors, bestsellers, and research publications. First Editing assists fiction, nonfiction, academic research, business authorities with editing for traditional, independent, and hybrid publishing. You basically do it all. Hi, JoEllen.
Thanks for having us. We're glad to be here.
Thank you. And you're joining us from the Canary Islands, right?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. And last but not least, we have Lisa Lepki, who is a serious word nerd, moonlighting as a marketing guru and editor for the ProWritingAid for the ProWritingAid blog. With over 15 years experience in writing, marketing, PR, producing, she secretly loves the technical elements of writing more than writing itself, although she won't admit it. I might try and get you to admit it though, Lisa. Thank you so much.
I always say I want to admit it, but actually I'm the first to admit it.
Well, thank you for joining us. And you're here coming to us from the UK. Nice. And we have people coming from all over. We have Scotland, England, Wisconsin, all different places. So thanks for everyone for tuning in. So yeah, I'm going to start us off, and I'm Tara from Kobo as your host as usual. So I'm going to start off and let everyone kind of introduce themselves and just give them a little bit of a like how you got into doing what you're doing with editing. So I'm going to start with JoEllen first.
Oh, no, then I muted myself. Perfect.
Yeah, so can you tell our listeners just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I guess as a writer, I started many, many years ago, but I was writing manuals and self-help kind of things in that. And that really stepped up. Been in it so long that we were right at the beginning of all this Amazon self-publishing and different things. And as you dig into that, you meet a lot of other people, and it just became obvious that there needed to be better help online for editing. So I reached out, and editors at that time, there weren't many directories or anything like that. So that was the only option if you could find anyone. So we created our own company and basically extended off another company that had been around for many, many years. And we did everything from the research and the fiction and the nonfiction and the business. And, it really grew rapidly. So thousands and thousands of people coming through. But our niche, I should say, is really that we're getting the person, especially now that the market is so busy and there's people everywhere writing and typing as we speak, that we're helping you prepare before you actually walk into the agent, before you go into self-publishing, before you're doing that. So we're the online affordable option there to basically save your reputation and make sure that you have a professional presentation, because in today's world, you really can't go in half prepared. You get one chance if you're lucky, and you better do it right. So that's where we are. And we set up, most popular is people ask for free samples. We do that and a critique. So you can always try us before you buy us and make sure that it works there. And we have an army of editors standing by with satisfaction guarantees. So that's kind of me there around. And when I wrote that book, I was actually an auctioneer. So I talked really fast. So that's part of why I have to slow down when I'm talking to
Do you have a gavel?
I do. I actually have several.
Nice. Gonna get you in our next meeting to just start us off with a gavel. I should have done it for this one if I had known.
It's been a while, but yeah, it's still there.
Nice. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, no, I love that idea that you're helping authors out before they want to kind of hit their publishing journey. So next, I'll just go to Kristina with Fictionary. Can you just tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so obviously I run Fictionary, but Fictionary came about because I started my writing career, or a career in the writing industry, as a writer. And I spent a year writing my first novel. And I think, like lots of people, I was terrified when I finished it. I had no idea if it was any good. I didn't want to share it with anyone. And that I had this thing, and my dream was to have it published. So I went on and wrote 2 more novels because I was too chicken to, do anything with that first one. But while I did that, what I discovered in researching and reading all the writing and editing books is what I truly love is editing. And so I need to get that first draft out of the way. It's painful for me. But when I get to the editing phase, I'm super happy and I love that part. So kind of my passion turned out to be more about editing. And what I discovered was it was really difficult to edit your own novel from a story editing perspective, which is what I specialize in. And so I created Fictionary to help with that. And the first version was just for me in a Excel spreadsheet mess, where I drew all my graphs and did all these things. And then we decided to actually build it into a product for other writers, thinking that, well, if I had this problem, other writers did too. So we'll put that out there. And then from there grew Story Coach, because we had bunch of editors coming to us asking us, like, how do I be comprehensive, and how do I know I'm objective, and how do I know I'm not doing something that actually makes the novel worse? So that's where we started partnering with First Editing and working with their editors to develop Story Coach, and all of JoEllen's story editors use Story Coach as a product. So it kind of all came around that way, just because I love editing.
Nice. I love that. And somebody else that loves editing is Lisa. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like everybody that we talk to in our community either loves the writing bit and hates editing, or hates the writing bit and loves editing. And there's so few people in that Venn diagram that work with both. And so it's good to have these sorts of tools to help you with that. But in terms of how I started, I was always one of those kids that had their nose in a book, and I've got piles and piles and piles of journals from when I was a kid. But it never occurred to me that I could be a writer. Like, I just thought if I was going to be a writer, that's Margaret Atwood. That's, like, you have to write these incredible things. And so the idea that I could, become that kind of writer just felt totally out of the world of possibility. So I ended up coming to writing professionally as part of other things that I was doing. I realized that out of everyone on the team, I could write the best press release, and I realized that I could write the best marketing copy, and then I realized that I could write all these different things. And it's only after I started working with other people that I realized that not everyone has that, and how much of writing is a skill that you can learn, and how much of it is technical, and how much of it is just about learning some good techniques. Because if you think of everybody in the world that writes, how many of those people that, whether they're writing reports or writing emails or whatever, how many of those people have actually taken a writing course? Like 10% of people maybe have had any sort of formal training in writing, and yet they're still having to write, these big accounting reports or pitches or all of these kinds of things. And somehow everyone's just expected to know how to do it. And so when Chris started ProWritingAid, Chris Banks is the founder of ProWritingAid, and he started in the same way as Kristina did. He was trying to edit his own book. And he's one of those people that has a creative mind and has a sort of technical knowledge. And so when he broke his ankle and was stuck in bed for a while, he spent that time like figuring out how he could do some of just the initial coding to find, I think it was passive voice that he started with, just figuring out how to find sentences based on, you know, just specific words that are in them, and it would flag them, and then he could go in and fix them. And then he became slightly obsessed with that and brought me on to help him with that. And that was sort of the beginning of our crusade, to help everybody understand that everybody can learn to write. Everybody can learn to figure out how all of that technical writing works, so that you can take these great ideas that are in your head and communicate them with the same sort of, so that the quality of your writing is the same quality of your ideas, and nothing gets lost in that translation.
Nice. I love that. Laura gave a comment there saying that she loves writing and hates editing as well. So there's each writer has their own kind of way of doing things.
That's right. We'll help you through it.
Yeah, exactly. And Calvin says editing is just writing with the bad bits taken out.
Yeah.
Which it absolutely is. So let's get on to some questions about what everyone can learn from you guys with your kind of areas of expertise with editing. If you guys have questions, please put them in the comments. But I think what I've learned from you guys is that the first step is always sort of the story edit part. So I think I'm going to start with Kristina. Can you speak to this a little bit, just about like why the story edit is so important, and then tell us about how Fictionary really helps with that?
Sure. So we always talk about, you know, you write your first draft, then you edit it. And there's this big world of editing out there. So how do you actually start? And so I recommend that you start with a story edit. And what that is getting your story straight first. And so you're looking at characters, plot, and setting, and you're looking at the overall story arc, word count per scene, characters in a scene, all of these things to get a strong story. And the reason I recommend you do that first is that when you're doing a story edit, you're going to move scenes around, cut scenes, add scenes, change scenes. And so you do a lot of rewriting. And so if you spend too much time copy editing and proofreading, and particularly proofreading, you're going to rewrite it anyway. And so then you have to do it all over again. And so I think most writers, when they're doing a story edit, do mostly a story edit. And you can't help but copy edit while you're story editing a little bit. But you don't want to do like a full copy edit on a whole novel and then go and rewrite it. That's hours and hours of wasted time. So if you do your story edit and do it the other way around. So that's why I recommend that. And with Fictionary, ProWritingAid works in it. So you can turn it on and copy edit, you know, as you do your story edit, or you can do it afterwards. Totally what you feel is right for you as a writer, which is really important. You know, I don't want to force a process on anyone, that you have to do what fits you. And sometimes your mind is just not creative for story, but you want to be productive. So go ahead and copy edit, right? These things happen. And so with Storyteller, basically, writer imports the manuscript and Storyteller then analyzes it for them. And it draws the story arc, it draws the word count per scene, it shows the characters per scene, the number of points of view, the order, a whole bunch of things. And then on the page where a writer would actually revise, we have 38 Fictionary story elements. And the writer, as they're reading, they're seeing the story elements are right beside them. And so they can look at, okay, today I'm going to focus on character. So who is in this scene, and who has the point of view, and what's their goal, and what's standing in the way of their goal, and all of these things you have to consider for a scene. Does the same thing for plot and the same thing for setting. And the feedback I love most from writers using Storyteller, and particularly newer writers, is that it really teaches them how to form a story in the best way possible. And so when they come to write their second novel, it's much easier because it's in your head. Once you've learned how to story element, you've learned what all the key elements are per scene. Every scene you write gets easier and easier because you know it has to have an entry hook and an exit hook. And so you don't just write a scene without it. You think about it, and then it becomes subconscious and it just happens. And so in a way, it also teaches a writer how to write better as they move forward in their writing career.
Nice. I like that idea a lot. And I like that it's come from you, like out of necessity for something that you've wanted as a writer. And I wonder if people use it as sort of, they get better and better at it. It would almost be a validation. You're like, I'm so good at my story edit now that Fictionary is like telling me that I'm good at my story edit.
It does. And, I love it. Once in a while, somebody will send me an email and show me a snapshot or a screenshot of their story arc and go, look, Kristina, it's right there. And you think, yay, that's great, right? So it does. And I've seen people put them out on Twitter and you think, okay, yay, someone's super proud that they've got it right. And they've gone from some crazy story arc to there it is in perfection.
Awesome. We do have a question from Matthew here who's just wondering, what's the learning curve for Fictionary? Is it very like user-friendly? Is it intuitive?
So there's kind of two thoughts on that. People who like online software, people love the actual aesthetics of it, that it's very pleasant and comforting to work in. And if you're a software user, it's easy to learn. If you're not, it's hard. So if you're not using any tools at all, then of course you're trying to learn a whole new skill of using a tool versus someone who has a bit of experience. So it kind of depends on the writer. And then within Fictionary, for every story element, we have a little question mark, and it tells you how to use the element, what you want to do for your writing, and what you want to watch out for. And the same for all the insights that actually show you your book. It tells you what you're looking for, so you can learn. And then that gets quicker when you know those, basically. But, you go in, you edit, you type, you delete, like any other software. You can move scenes around, delete scenes, and really you just move your mouse and find the spots.
Yeah, I think the best way to learn software is to use it. And Kristina is kindly giving away a year subscription to Storyteller that is valued at $200. So, I mean, if I had your gavel now, JoEllen, I would be hitting the gavel for our first giveaway. So this is going to go to the first person in the chat that just types the word Fictionary.
And spells it right.
And spells it right.
And spells it right.
First person that types Fictionary is going to receive 1 year subscription to Storyteller.
Right there.
Right. In the comments. And Calvin Beam is our first person. So congratulations, Calvin. You're getting your year subscription to Storyteller. So if you send us an email to writinglife@kobo.com, we'll sort you up and connect you with Kristina for that one. So thank you, everyone, for taking part. We're going to have some more to go. So I'm going to go over to JoEllen next. So JoEllen, your editors use Fictionary as sort of a basis for assisting in their editing process. So what's next once a story edit is done?
Well, there's 3 levels of editing, and it's basically the highest level being that story edit, which if you're not writing a fiction story, then it's also a content or a developmental or structural edit. And then when you're done with that, you have the option of going on to a line edit, which is, basically the line by line, making sure the grammar, spelling, punctuation, that syntax things are covered, but also the style, the voice, the continuity, the flow, that it all kind of ties together quite well, not from a logical perspective as much as that it flows gently from one scene to the next, and that works. And then of course we have the copy editing also, and these are all produced or performed by human editors, as my 2 partners here like to talk about. And we prefer professional editors, but either way, we use both. We use both Fictionary with our fiction editing, and we use all of my editors are required as part of their job to use ProWritingAid, because it really is a tool that, it just keeps you consistent and makes sure that you're objective, you're not missing anything. And, it is just too easy, and you should always use the tools that are available to you. So when you've done your story edit, if you're using Storyteller, you have a couple options there in the fiction world, is to come on over to us, and we can actually go through that as a story coach, which is what the back end that we use. It's more or less the same, but it's on the higher level, and it allows us to access your document actually inside the system there. And to 38 story elements. We've been going through a lot of videos, Kristina and I, and it's intense. It's a lot to learn. So just having written a book is a lot, but then the editing is so intense. So we've been trying to show people exactly what are those 38 objective things that we want to make sure we don't overlook. And then once you have that, then the editor's also looking at the creative, the subjective, based upon their experience in the publishing industry, based upon their experience in your genre, based upon their experience in your subject matter, whatever way you're looking at that. So that's very important. And then, of course, once you've completely wrapped up that structural developmental content edit, then it's the line edit that we talk about. We talk about a lot of that. But again, one of the things, and again, we are partnering also with, I don't know which way to point on this.
It's like the Brady Bunch, we're all around the place.
When we combine with ProWritingAid, we've actually been doing a self-editing school and talking about what we do behind the scenes so that you can learn as a writer. Again, the more you know, the better writer you become. And what that means to you financially, and then we have to bring this up, is that professional editors, human editors, we cost. And it's a huge investment, if not the largest investment you make in your book prior to going to the launch and that. So it's really important for you to get the best return on your investment, which means use both of these tools and any other writing tools that are out there that you feel comfortable with, that you can manage, right? And then from that, when you can have a really conscious, educated discussion with your editor about what you feel your weaknesses are, what you feel you are missing, or you want to achieve. So you should have these things ready, and that allows the editor to give you much more deep and rewarding edit from that, because in the same way you learn when you're working with Fictionary, you also learn when you're working with a human, because they're constantly giving you feedback. And it is a process. You don't do this once and you're done. It's continual, which is why it's so great with ProWritingAid, because they're no matter where you are online, they're kind of plugged in overall, and it keeps you honest, and it keeps you focused when you're not. If that makes any sense. So that's how we do it. We have the content. We have 3 types of editing. You have the higher level content story edit, developmental edit, second level being the line edit, and you also have the copy edit. And all 3 of those, we recommend that you use a human professional editor, and that you also use a different editor for each of those phases if you have that luxury, financially and on that situation. But at the minimum, you need to do the copy edits. The great thing is you can prepare a lot by having these tools plugged in before you get to the professional editor. So that's kind of where we fit in. And that's why we're doing this together now, because it just doesn't make sense to do it alone. It's a process. Absolutely. And we have an ebook on that, by the way.
Yeah, it's very helpful. I don't know if we can drop it in here, but we'll find it to add it after the fact. We have a question from Michelle here. So is asking, how do we find a professional human editor? And I'm sure the answer would be to go to First Editing.
Well, there's the first answer. But of course, it is a matchmaking. So I cannot promise you that we are the best match for you. It really depends upon your genre, your experience, and what your needs are, and where you are as a writer. But once you have all those things together, you need to go out and get what we do to make sure that we are a match, because it is a matchmaking situation, is that if you send us your document, we can review this and give you back a free writing sample, so you see what it is like to work with our editors, the editor that we have vetted, certified, and approved to work in your genre. And then also that we give you a critique or a little bit of a feedback there on what type of editing you need. Now, what you want can be more, but we cannot deliver less. If that makes any sense, because it really reflects on us. We have to give you the full editing that you need, and then if you want to go deeper, of course, we can always do that. But so you get basically that editorial critique, and you get that free sample, and that's the best way to start. And then if for some reason you don't feel that that's the right person, or it doesn't match, then you can either ask for another one from us, which we have no problem with, or you go on. And there's also directories out there online. I do warn you to be careful with the freelancers, because they need to be certified. They need to be professionals who have experience in the publishing industry, who have experience with your genre, who have experience in all these different factors. And as we're in the midst of a pandemic, anybody who's written a book or helped edit one of their friend's book does not make them an editor. It really does not. It's the same as a doctor. You want somebody who actually has been educated in that, and is qualified to do that and has a system, an institution standing behind them, which is what we do, saying that we guarantee they're going to provide this and that we're going to stand behind everything they do. And if you can't have those things, next, keep going.
Yeah, and I think you want consistency too. So I think that's something definitely about like with freelance, you don't know what's going to happen, like you said, with the pandemic, that people are busy or different things come up, or life takes over. So yeah, that's
you need
a
to see
point.
that they've got. I mean, the other thing is ask for proof. We can take any of our editors and show you how many authors have published since then, either independently or with the publishing houses and whatever level they're doing. So I know, Kristina, you had something you wanted to pop in there, so.
I'd like to give some top questions to ask. If you're looking for an editor, first thing I recommend is you figure out what you think you need from an editor. So if you think that you need a story editor, what you want to do, so if you find somebody you like, that's great, but ask them as part of the story out, what do they do? Do they evaluate your story arc for you? And will they show you what is your inciting incident, plot point 1, midpoint? If the answer to that is no, they're not a story editor. And I say this because I've had lots of people through Fictionary who come to me and say, well, I've had an edit. And I say, well, let me see it. And you think, ooh, that's a copy edit. That's not. And so they paid for a full out story edit, which is the most expensive, and didn't get it. They got too much of a copy edit. So you ask them, will they evaluate your word count per scene? They need to look at the structure of your novel, right? So if they come back and say, oh, they don't do the story arc or they don't do word count per scene, they're not a story editor. And those are very key questions you can ask. And there's many other things a story editor does, but those are very quick ways to flush out, are you getting what you're paying for or not?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Wow, that is wonderful advice. So speaking of getting what you're paying for, I mean, we may as well have another giveaway, little gong for another thing. So JoEllen at First Editing has been so kind to offer a credit for editing services of the value of $200 USD. So we're going to play the same game. First person to type First Editing into the chat will win this.
There you go.
And it's on the screen, so you can like take it from there. I like this. This is sort of like being the lotto person that pulls the balls through.
Yeah.
Yes.
Stressful.
Oh, I see them coming through here. How strict do I have to be on JoEllen on spacing or versus no spacing?
Oh, I didn't. That's your game.
Okay, well, the first one that I'm seeing in the comments here is accent on Acupuncture and Health Wellness Center YouTube channel. I'm not too sure what the person's name is specifically, but you have won there. So congratulations.
Great.
Excellent. And thank you all for typing. This is wonderful. So, all right. So I like that how we have Fictionary and First Editing sort of intertwining with one another, but then also like ProWritingAid does the same. You're kind of using the same tools, but hitting up different spots and kind of doing a little bit of everything. We have a lot of ProWritingAid love in the comments here, that they really love the program and the things that we can do with it. And I think it seems to be like such a good thing to use for like pointing out like bad habits and different things like that, or like overused phrases. Like you mentioned about how like it was created to try and hit up passive voice. So can you tell us about the sorts of things that ProWritingAid does if people aren't familiar, and how it interacts with all of the stages of editing that we've sort of been talking about?
Yeah, sure. I mean, one of the things that I just wanted to say is that when we first started talking about ProWritingAid as an editing tool, so many writers said, well, an editing tool will never replace a human editor. And we were like, no, we know, we get that. We absolutely get that. This is a step on the process. Like our editing tools, whether it's Fictionary or ProWritingAid, are going to struggle to find your character inconsistencies or your plot holes or anything like that. But what they can do is sort of guide you in the right direction and flag things that might be problematic so that you, as the writer, can go back and have a look at them. And I think there's lots of things, like passive voice is a good example, where if you use passive voice occasionally, it's fine. If you use it loads, it gets really hard to read and it's less engaging for your writer. And so ProWritingAid, like you could go through your whole novel from top to bottom and search out every little sentence that is written in passive voice and then edit them that way. Or you could just run a report and it flags them all and you can just go through and be like, it works there. Oh, that one, I could rewrite that. Oh, that one, I could rewrite that. It just sort of creates a lot of efficiency around that, around things that are easy for software to find and flag and point out to you. And the way I always think of the copy editing and line editing side of things is that it's the way to get the story out of your head along a smooth path and into the head of your reader. And we talk a lot about how that sort of stage is looking at the technical elements of writing and making sure that your ideas are coming through in the way that you want them to. And so every time your reader looks at a sentence and has to like stop and reread it again because they don't really know what you're saying, or passive voice just means you don't say who's doing an action until the end of a sentence. And so if you imagine a movie in your brain and you always want your reader imagining things and picturing things and your description is like filling out that movie in their brain. And every time you write a sentence where you don't know who's doing the action until the end of the sentence, that's like a blank until you get to the final word of the sentence. And so there's just lots of technical things like that are just based on word order and word construction and the kind of ways that your sentences are put together. That's quite easy actually for software to find because it's just, there's a limited amount of word editor or word orders that you can find. The other one that I always really love, and it's maybe just because it's my own bad habit, and every writer has their own bad habits, but my favorite report is called the sticky sentence report. And so the way we break it down is there's two different kinds of words in every sentence. There's the working words, which have like actual proper meaning. And then there's the glue words, which are like and, in, on, the, by, like all of those words that are the scaffolding for your sentence, but they don't actually have any information in themselves. So you want your sentences to have as many working words as possible, and the glue words just stick them together. And if you end up having a sentence that has 60% glue words and only 40% working words, probably you can go back and rewrite that and make it a bit more clear. And the road that sentence is going to go down into your reader's mind has some bumps on it. And there's a good chance that you will be able to improve the clarity if you go back and rewrite it again. And there's tons of things like that in the software where it's a flag so that you can just tinker with the technical elements and see if you are if you're using those words as the tool that they are to get the ideas across in the best way.
Can I just follow up on that?
Oh, sure.
Lisa,
go ahead.
Lisa, one of the things that I find with ProWritingAid that really speeds up my process is before ProWritingAid, and I was looking through for passive word, you got to read every sentence and think, do I need to rewrite that sentence? And then you go on to the next sentence. Do I need to rewrite that sentence? And what you're enabling people to do is to let ProWritingAid flag what you might need to rewrite, and then decide, do I want to or not? It's up to you, of course, as the artist. You've written this is yours. But it allows you to focus on the problem points instead of doing every sentence of your 80,000 words, which takes forever.
Yeah, and I'm sure at some point as well, your brain's not even seeing these things because you're so close to your own story. You've been writing this for a long time. Like, how many of us have, read something 5 times and on the 6th read, we find the typo that's been there the entire time. So I like yeah, exactly. I like the idea of like ProWritingAid just sort of like giving you kind of like a nudge in the right direction of yeah. Little tap on the shoulder.
This might be problematic.
And the good part is
that is the repeats report, because it'll just go through, like, you can go through your entire book and tell you that you've used this same 6-word phrase 9 times. But I mean, as a human reading that, it's really hard to log every sentence and every phrase that you've used. But 9 times is a lot in a book if it's like a 9-word phrase. So probably you want to go back, because it'll just set off like a sort of irritating echo in the mind of your reader. And so you can go back and have a look at it. But I think that with Fictionary and with ProWritingAid, one of the things that we hear a lot is that it takes the editing process and breaks it down into really doable chunks. Because like when I wrote my first draft of my first fiction piece that I ever wrote, I just didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. The whole thing seemed really daunting. And so Fictionary like breaks it down and says, okay, here's your job for today. You go through, you look at all of your characters, you tick it off, and then you think, oh, great, look at me, I did some editing. You feel you've checked it off your checklist, which I'm obsessed with checklists. And you go along with that. Same thing with copy editing. It's the same thing. Like today, we run a summary report. It's told me that I have too many sticky sentences. Today is sticky sentence day. I'm going to go through, and I'm not going to get up from my desk until my sticky sentence score is looking more in line with published work. And that's your goal for the day. And once you've done that, then you can move on. And I think both Fictionary and ProWritingAid are great for that and making it all feel just a bit less daunting and a bit more doable.
Absolutely. I like the idea of just kind of using them all together in like different ways. And Daryl has a comment here or a question here just asking about what about a style report? He's asking if you compare text with famous authors, which I'm sure you probably don't want to do as a writer. You want to have your own voice.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Oh, you do want to do it?
No, we've got, so it's quite a new feature. There's a Daryl that often comes to our webinar, so if that's you, Daryl, hi. So if you run so when you sign up for ProWritingAid, you can go into your settings and choose the author that you most want to emulate. So if it's Neil Gaiman or if it's Margaret Atwood or whoever it is, there's about 40 authors in there, and you choose that author, and then when you run a summary report, it'll give you your passive voice index, for example, against all fiction writing, but then specifically against Neil Gaiman. So you can just see how you stand up to them, because different genres are a bit different and expectations are different if you're writing fantasy compared to if you're writing true crime compared to if you're writing romance, right? And so it just gives you just a more specific benchmark and lets you make sure that you're in line with them. Cool.
I love that you can
have a lot of your time, I warn you.
And you can tell your family that you are going to be the next Neil Gaiman because this software has told you that.
Because your scores are totally in line, so it's any minute now. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So maybe we're going to have my imaginary gong for our next giveaway, as ProWritingAid has been kind enough to supply a year license for one of the lucky viewers here, which is valued at $79 US. So we're going to play the same game again. Put ProWritingAid in the chat, and the first one that I see will be the winner.
They know the game now. They were just like,
I know, they're just waiting.
Enter.
Well, they're slowly coming through, I think. Oh, I see Anna Cordoba is the first person that had added ProWritingAid. So Anna, congratulations.
Awesome, Anna. Great.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah, and you can send us an email at writinglife@kobo.com if you're the winner, and we will set that up for you. Okay, so let's get into some questions that have come through the chat. So one of the first questions that a couple of people asked Kristina is there a word limit with Fictionary? Oh, you're muted.
Okay, yeah, no, I think I know how to do that right now. No, there is no word limit. However, I will say, I think the largest novel we have in there is about 380,000 words, and I've spoken to the writer, and so when the story arc is drawing, it's slow, because every time the story arc draws, it's analyzing the whole manuscript. So the bigger the manuscript, you'll find some parts of the app are a little bit slower, but we don't actually have a word limit. I'm sure at some point but we've tested up to, well, we put in like 1,200,000 words, and so it's just slow, but it actually works.
Oh, nice. That's good to know. I have a question here from Lauren. Wants to know, how do you specifically find a developmental editor that a few sample pages are maybe not enough to get the pacing or the character arcs? So,
exactly.
Yeah,
it's a very good question.
How does one find that?
Well, when I mentioned doing, because we do all 3 levels of editing, so it's a little different. But actually, if you're looking for that developmental story edit, like Kristina and I do, then you really do need the full manuscript to be able to assess it. And that's the beauty of having that software, because it can assess it like eerily way too fast. We say it's magic, and when it happens, you just go whoof, and it's there. But yeah, then the editor needs to be able to go in, and again, it's those 38 story elements. We're using like an objective, a pilot going in before takeoff, and that's our job. We're the pilot. We have the checklist, and you can go in and learn this, but you really still want to have that developmental editor who is trained and experienced, again, in your genre, in your what your subject matter, whatever it is you're dealing with, that they have that experience, that you feel comfortable, because they want to make sure that your voice is consistent. They want to make sure that you're staying along those same lines. So one of the great things is that story coach is now a certification, and like Kristina mentioned earlier, we have all of our fiction editors certified in that, so that we just don't pass it anymore. And this, there is a conglomeration going on here, but only because it offers better value to the writers, and it's the only way to keep up. I mean, the same way we use ProWritingAid, we have to do that. And when you're in ProWritingAid, there's a little button there, and you're looking for an editor. If you think you're finally there, then you click on the button, and up we come, and we say, okay, you're ready for editing, and you can talk to us, and you can also call or chat or do whatever. So that example of send us a portion is more for when you're doing a line edit or a copy edit as your final reaches. But on that developmental edit, absolutely, if it is a literature, fiction story that's coming through, we want the whole thing.
Wonderful. And you mentioned that certified editor. Somebody had the question, and I was curious myself. What's certified how? Like what's the editing like PhD?
Okay, so there we developed the program because when I went out looking for how are editors getting their credentials to prove they're any good, it's really difficult to find a structural editing course for fiction. There's lots of nods, there's a piece, but most of it is nonfiction because that's more boxed in. And so what we did at Fictionary is we created a certification program and wrote it to train editors specifically on story editing. So we don't deal with copy editing, proofreading at all. It's specifically. And then to test the program, we worked with 13 of editors from First Editing, and we spent 6 months running professional story editors through the certification program to make sure that we had it right, and developed it that way before taking it out to just editors in the world who want to really learn how to story edit, and want some kind of certification so that a writer knows they've been trained.
Right. And I would, sorry, when you're looking at that, even though still, I mean, for us, before we did this, we were always trying to keep that level up. So you have to vet, and you have to, have education beyond that. You have to have the tools. So, we mandatory now, all editors must have the ProWritingAid installed and using, because that's a security check for us. Mm-hmm. And when you're doing fiction, then we have, we're using those tools, but even so, you really still want to ask that editor, what's your experience? What's your success rate? What's your references? If you were hiring somebody and that's what you're doing, can you see their testimonials? Can you talk to one of their or read one of their previously edited books? And that's the standard. If they're just out there freelancing, then they need to hold themselves to that standard independently. And that's just the way it is now. There's just too much out there. So you need to, in the same way, if we're editing something that's not fiction, then all of our academics are PhDs, and they have experience, and they've been published. They're in journals. They've been vetted by that system, the academic work there. So it's what we're doing, keeping the standards again. That's the only way to feel assured that you can trust the person on the other end.
Yep. And a good story editor will ask you as a writer for a blurb so they understand what your promise to the reader is. They will ask you for your word count so they can tell right away, even before receiving your manuscript, are you in the right ballpark for your genre? So they kind of can estimate what level you're at. And they will also ask you, what are you worried about? So where do you think that you need help in particular? Because there may be areas that you know are a problem, and you want that editor to pay attention to those problems, and the editor should be asking you for that input prior to starting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that you're getting the good people or the trusted vetted editors. It's something that we like to do at Kobo Writing Life as well, is when you're publishing independently, it's really daunting if you wanted to type self-publishing into Google or any search engine that you're using. And I'm sure it is the same with like trying to find an editor and you're getting like 100 hits and you don't know where to begin. So I think it's really great that you guys have like built out this course to make sure that your users just really don't have to have that concern.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. I mean, and that's why we're working with Kobo. We're trying to make sure that, not only we feel confident in what we're presenting, but if we can hand them off to the next stage, okay, you've been edited now, and you've done this, and you've got your, what's your book cover, what's your launch, and where are you going to put this up, and how do we use the aggregators, and where is it going to be distributed? All those little things that really can be overwhelming. And so you need to have a trusted team, a trusted approach of other people that have proven their knowledge at one stage, and you can trust them for the next, or at least be handed off with confidence.
Absolutely. So in addition to the ProWritingAid love that we're getting in the comments, we're getting a lot of love for the webinars and things that you've done during the pandemic. So, good on that. We were in one recently, which was a lot of fun. So that's a nice little perk to be able to take part in your webinars.
Yeah, well, then actually we've got you next week. What day is it? On March 30th, we've got you coming in to do one. So if you want to learn more about Kobo Writing Life and how it all works, you can come join us there.
So yeah, have a look out for that. But some questions about ProWritingAid, and there's a couple of different questions about specific software, but could you maybe talk a little bit generally about how writing software integrates with ProWritingAid?
Sure. Yeah,
how that works.
So we have integrations for MS Word and Outlook as well, and Google Docs. In that way, you can just get our toolbar added to your MS Word like overall toolbar. Google Docs as well, you can write your document in Google Docs and then click a little button and our whole editor will open up as a pop-up over top of Google Docs, and you can access all of the 20 different reports there. A lot of people ask us about Scrivener. We don't have an integration in Scrivener, but what we can do is open up your whole Scrivener project inside of ProWritingAid, which I don't think any other editing software can do. And so then you can go into all the different elements of your project, do your editing there, close it up, and then when you go and open it again in Scrivener, it'll be there. And then what JoEllen was talking about before is our Chrome extension, we have extensions for Firefox and Chrome and Safari and Edge and various others. But that means that ProWritingAid sort of follows you around the internet. So if you're writing an email, you'll have a little box there that will underline. Well, it'll give you live corrections as you're writing for grammar and style and spelling. And then if you want to go deep into any of the other reports, you just click a little button and a pop-up opens and you do your work there and then close it down again. So it's quite good that way. That's how you use it with Fictionary. So Fictionary exists on as a web-based application. And so as long as you've got our Chrome extension installed, that'll just pop up right inside of Fictionary. And that's the same with like Wattpad and Medium and all of those sorts of things. It's a good way to have it sort of follow you around and keep track of your editing wherever you go.
It should show up in Kobo Writing Life. It should show up when you're on your dashboard there because that's web-based. Yeah. I mean, it follows you everywhere. So it's, we're all tied in. You can't hide.
I like the idea of it like improving my emails. I just want my emails to be just like really dramatic scenes. So I'll can help with that.
Yeah, but I mean, I've used it every day, constantly, and it pops up with things, just to reduce my wordiness, and instead of saying as well as, it's just like, do you really need as well as? Can you just say and there? Just little ways to make my writing a bit more concise, a bit less vague. Good.
Nice. And we have a question that's come through here about if this is available in different languages. The software here is English-based first, or could it be used for different languages?
No, ProWritingAid is English only. We're sort of working on a Spanish one. We keep saying that that's going to be our next one, but there's so many things we still want to do with our English one. that we haven't quite got there yet. And we essentially have to rebuild the tool from scratch because Spanish is just built in a different way. It's not like we can just plug in a new language and have it work. So at some point in the future, Spanish will be our next venture, but probably not for a couple of years anyway. There's still too much that we want to do.
So in Fictionary, as long as your English is good enough that you can use the commands in Fictionary and read the writing tips and stuff. We have writers who the language is in Dutch, French, Spanish, Swedish. Anyway, several, as long as the alphabet is right. So obviously we're not doing an Arabic alphabet or whatever, but the manuscript will get scanned and everything will draw and you can use the whole thing. So it just kind of nicely works if you're comfortable using the rest of the tool in English.
Nice. And JoEllen, your editors are based English only?
Yes, but and what I want to emphasize on that is that all of our editors are not just English speakers, but they're native. Not only do they speak English and they've been to education in English, but their home life is in English. And why I mention that is because somebody who speaks Indian, Hindu English is not going to be the same as somebody, or Filipino, or I mean, not to say that those aren't primary languages in those cultures and countries, they are, but it is a totally different method of communication. So you need to have an editor who is educated, speaks, writes, and communicates even with their children in that language and does it well. And we're very, very particular in that. We've tested other ones and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't. It's just hilarious because you need to have, diction and all those colloquial little things that come through in language. They just get lost. And I'm going to give you a funny. One time we tested this. We had a lovely lady who was very well educated. She was perfect for PhD editing. But she was Indian with her main background, but she spoke, British English. It just sounded great. And she got an urban fiction document, which was hilarious because it had a lot of Ebonic words and different texts and referrals in it. And she just whitewashed it. It was just everything and even though it was just hilarious to see that culturally you could not keep the story. And she said, but now it's correct. And I was like, yes, it's very correct and completely wrong. So make sure it's, again, a matchmaking thing. And that's why it's so important to have those, if you're writing a cookbook that somebody understands that, if you're writing erotica, that they understand the necessary key points that go into that. And, the same with murder mysteries or whatever. It's very important that they know that and that they're doing that. Now, we've had people attach us. I speak Swedish and Spanish and those things. But again, you don't want me to, I can do some basic, but you don't want me editing your Swedish or your Spanish. It's just not a good choice. You need to stay in your language.
I was just going to ask if you do editing in other languages at all, but no is the answer there.
Not typically, no. We've done a few, but no, not really. We're not out. There's some great companies out there and you need to go with them in that country.
Yeah. Nice. That's good advice. All right. I'm going to hit my gong for the last time. And this is the giveaway from Kobo Writing Life. We're giving away an e-reading device, which is the Kobo Nia, which is valued at $99 US. So let's play the game again. First person that puts Kobo Writing Life into the comment box will be the winner of a brand spanking new e-reading device.
Are we allowed to enter this one? I really want one.
Me too.
Sure. You're like, type it really quickly. Okay. I feel like there's like a little delay with the comments. So it's like the anticipation of waiting them to see them come through.
And the person's already typed it and they're like, hey, I typed it. Where is it?
Exactly. Okay. So we see Annette, a baby Brown, is the winner of the Kobo Nia. So congratulations, Annette. Yay. And thank everyone else for playing. This has been very fun to do. This is the first time we've done giveaways with these live events. So this is fun and new to me.
I like it. Adds a little excitement.
It does, yeah.
Not that editing needs it. Editing is exciting enough as it is.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Nice.
And now a comma.
We've had some people ask if you will be sharing your contact information. So as we're coming to the end of the hour here, it might be nice for us to go around and see where people can go to find out about you and how they can reach out or kind of to learn more. So let's start with ProWritingAid.
We're at ProWritingAid.com. Easy, head over there. But you can sign up for just for a free account to test the software out, see if you like it, see if it fits with your process, and if not, it's fine. You can also a good place to install the Chrome extension so that it'll start following you all around the internet and improving your writing.
It's very good.
Nice. Awesome. And JoEllen, where can people find you and learn more about first editing?
Sure. Go to firstediting.com. And there we have chat available. We also have phones that you can call and talk to real humans there. And then, of course, we offer the free phones. We are so old. We got phones. We even have fax. My goodness. But please don't fax us your manuscript. Anyhow, that's for legal purposes only. Anyhow, there are lots and lots of things you can choose there, but basically upload your document and send it in for a free sample. We'll be glad to get back to you and let you know an exact firm price. It doesn't change, and what we think that you need and how long it would take and all that fun stuff, and answer any questions. And somebody will phone you within 24 hours if you leave your phone number. So
that's some amazing service there. Yeah.
Yes, that's what you get.
Nice. And then last but not least, of course, Kristina, where can people learn more about Fictionary?
So it's fictionary.co, not fictionary.com, co. And we have a chat on the bottom right. And if you click that and you want to talk to me in particular, just say, hey, Kristina, and I will see it. And if I'm not online at the time, leave me your email address and I will get back to you. And the same goes if you actually use the Fictionary app. I talk to lots of writers there personally within the app when they're actually using it and they have questions about whatever they have questions about, whether it's their writing or it's Fictionary itself. I'm always happy to help, and I love getting connected and chatting with writers. So do reach out if you'd like to.
Nice. And it's always a pleasure to chat to you three ladies. We like to call ourselves the Quartet, that we've all come together as these women to help writers with their editing and independent publishing and just basically their writing journey from start to finish. And we've got stuff coming up in the future as well. Like Lisa mentioned, there's the ProWritingAid demo next week. And we've got some other stuff in the works. So I would say to keep an eye on Kobo Writing Life's social or sign up to our newsletter. And that's where we'll sort of be letting everyone know what's going on with the four of us.
Yeah, and if you wanted to come to that webinar with Tara next week, if you go to ProWritingAid.com and then click on the Learn tab at the top and then hit webinars, that's where you'll find the registration pages there.
Perfect.
Awesome. Any last words, ladies?
Just keep writing.
Yeah.
Keep writing, keep learning.
Don't be afraid of editing. Editing's awesome. Yeah. Editing's where the magic happens. Embrace editing. Learn to love it. It's great.
Embrace editing. That's the message.
There you go.
I love that. Editing shouldn't be scary. Embrace it. Awesome. Right. Well, thank you everyone for commenting and watching. This has been a really wonderful hour that has just flown by. So we'll have to do something else as well if there's any other tricky questions that have come up. But thank you, ladies. This has been a wealth of knowledge and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you again soon.